Hi everybody out there, my name is Kris Nicholson. I'm a honky-tonk ragtime pianist, as you know. A lot of people don't know my other hidden talent, which is actually building my own pianos. I started this talent when I was a kid, and I used to build them out of cardboard. Now I learned how to build them actually out of wood and make my own hybrid digital pianos. So this next video that you're gonna see, I actually experimented and made my own hybrid digital piano using a Casio MZ-X500 and using the keybed of a Kawai MP9000 that was totally lost. Anyway, I think I did some success. So this video is a step-by-step video. If you guys want to do this project for yourself, just heed the warnings that you have voided your warranty of your keyboard if you open it up. Second thing is that if you cut into the keyboard, there's basically no going back. So please, if you're gonna do this project, do it at your own risk. It's not really the company's fault if you mess up the product, but I had to do a lot of thinking when I did this project myself. Thank you so much and enjoy the video. Hey everybody out there, this is Kris Nicholson. This is my Casio MZ-X500, and right over here, this is the keybed, or the keyboard of the Kawai MP9000, which is an old one. It doesn't work anymore. I saved the action, I saved the keys and the hammers and everything. So my plan is to actually marry them two together. What I'm gonna do is take out the existing keybed, build my own keybed, use the electronics from the whole chassis on it. I have to build a lower chassis because I'm building a whole new keybed, and using the action of the Kawai MP9000. So this Casio is going to have wooden keys. Let's see if I could do it. Okay, it's kind of windy out here, but I bought a board basically the size of the Casio. So I did some measurements. Casio's like 27 by 36, so it's like 27 going widthways and I'm sorry, going lengthways and widthways, or from key to key, it's like 26 or 28. So I bought these sideboards right over here because I know I have to make the keyboard chassis in the bottom a little bit taller, just to add that action in. This right over here, these are little boards right over here, and very good wood, very good wood. I'm gonna paint it, I'm gonna stain it, it's gonna look real nice after I'm finished with it. That's for the key slip, and the key slip is what's in front of the keys. I might use that, or I might use something else. And this right over here, these are gonna be to hold the sides in. So they're going to be like anchors of the sides, which is part of the sides, but also anchors of it. Might be for also decoration, if I could get this thing looking really, really good. But it's going to be a heavy-duty keyboard after I'm finished with it, so wish me luck. Another thing I bought is Rust-Oleum paint. This is actually the Brilliant Metallic Finish, and it's like a blue. Almost the same, because you know what happened. It looks kind of the same, see, but a little bit more sparkly, but it will work in perfectly because I just did a dolly just like that for my Roland RP 201, and that worked just perfectly. Okay, so I closed up my 9-foot concert grand. I put the MZ-X500 right on top of it because I'm going to disassemble it. That's the hard part. It's easy and hard at the way because you don't want to disassemble things. Okay, so what I did is I got my screwdriver right over here, a very long one, which is very good. I got my speaker. The reason of that is because you want to take a screwdriver and go like this a couple times. And what this does is that it magnetizes the screwdriver, which is really cool. And also I have my drill, really cool. Just in case if you want to take off stuff real fast. I really don't like to do electronics with drills. Wood, yes, but not electronics. So I'm going to try to, as much as to keep away from the drill. But this is such a great workstation. One of Casio's best top-of-the-line workstations. One thing that I like about it is that it does everything. It samples, it does everything. The only thing I didn't like about it is that, number one, is that the case is very, very flimsy. It's kind of bendable and everything like that. But I updated the case when I updated this action, because one thing about it is that every time I kept on playing, it was flexing back and forth. So, but it's such a great keyboard. And there's some notes I'm missing because the action is not 100% there. When I first did it with the action, when I first took the whole thing apart, when I first got the keyboard, you heard noise. You heard noise on here. And that's one thing that drove me crazy. So I redid the action 3 times. And I have videos that you can go and look at it. I redid the action 3 times. And right now it's okay. It's not as noisy. So if I turn it down, it's not as noisy. But it's still plasticky. And I know you can't change every keyboard with it, but you know, what I want to do is I want to upgrade it because it's such an awesome arranger workstation. So the first step that I have to do is I have to turn it off. I have to unplug it, turn it over, and I'm leaving it this way to turn over because one thing about it is that every screw that you take apart, you have to basically remember what you did. So I'm leaving it this way because when I turn it back over, it's going to be turned back over my way, just like how I'm playing it. So here we go. I'm going to take it apart now. Now, taking apart the keyboard, it comes in 3 sections. So this is the first section right over here, and it comes this way. Don't worry, you're not going to hurt the keyboard. Just make sure you handle it delicately. You also have another set of screws right over here. This is one bracket in the back that houses another set of screws. I added this felt piece right over here. So what I have to do is I have to take these off. There's another one right here. Now they're all the same screws until you get to the electronics. Okay, next, any of the remaining screws you have to use with your long screwdriver. Perfect. So what I want to do is now I want to separate these 2 parts. So this part comes out first. This speaker just comes out, and you can put it aside, or you can just have it like this. And this part right over here comes off just like that. So I'm just going to put it aside for now. Another thing that I did is I added the felt strip. So that comes out too. So I'm gonna put these aside this way, backwards a little bit. Next thing I have to do is I have to take apart the key action. As you can see, which is not in any of the other Casios because I added it myself, I added a black felt strip right over here. I loosen all the screws. Now, what I have to do is take apart the keyboard itself. So I lift up all of the naturals. Don't worry, the sharps will fall in line too. And there you go. Save them, do not throw away, just in case if this experiment doesn't work, you can put the whole keyboard back together. So that's one set. Second set. Third set, which is the last set. It's only 61 keys. Here's the contact board. Very, very easy to take out. Now, right over here, I put a protective felt strip right over here. So, not that much dust or anything will get to it. All I have to do is take that out, because I have another one. So that's one. Here's the other one. Take that out too. And don't throw anything away. Just in case if the experiment doesn't work, you can use it as a template. There we go. All right. Very easy to take out the contacts. The contacts actually come in two parts. So this is part number one, which is right over here, and this is part number two, which is right over here. These contacts being blue, I have no idea why they're blue. I can find that out. But as you can see, part of the action, the felt pieces are coming up anyway because of the adhesive. So what I'm gonna do is just leave it there because I probably won't be able to use a chassis. The chassis right over here, I'm gonna use it as a template for the piece of wood that I'm gonna cut. So taking out the action, there's these little clips. Once you take off one clip, you actually have to hold part of the action up. Here we go. And then here are your key contacts. So what have I done? I actually separated the electronics because the top part we're definitely gonna need. Number two, you're gonna have to actually study the chassis, which is right over here. Now, the flimsiness that I was gonna talk about is this little bend. I don't know why it comes in two pieces like that. It's like a very thin strip in between that is holding this up. If I were to drop it, it would have broken two pieces. I put these little wood veneer strips just to hold it, and honestly, it didn't do a good job. So that's one. Here's the other one here too. It just fell off. Another thing that I did is I put Gorilla Tape right here, and it still held it up, and I'm just gonna keep that right there just in case. But what I need to study in the chassis is basically the speaker area. I need to study the whole layout, which is gonna be the format, and then the speaker area. So there's one speaker area right here, and there's another speaker area right here. And that's where the other pieces of wood is gonna come in handy, because you're gonna have to probably copy that. I have to make a template, or better yet, just study how it's gonna be, just to make the pieces of wood for the box. Now, keep in mind, you're putting in an action that is gonna be a little bit longer than what you're doing. So I might have to make the sides of the chassis a little bit taller. So that shouldn't be a problem. But I have to be making that it's gonna be correct, number one, and number two, I have to make it that it's gonna look good. Just for example, this is the plank of wood that I'm actually gonna be using. This is the board. Very, very nice. This is a laminated ply. Now, you can use it on this side, or you can use it on that side. If you're gonna leave it natural wood, what I suggest is pick the best side. So this would be the best side that's gonna go on the bottom. Don't worry about scratching it up because you might end up painting it, or you could put rubber feet that's underneath it because to support the whole chassis of the piano. After you finish doing that, this piano is gonna be very, very doable and stable. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the Kawai action right on top of it. Right now it's kind of rocky because there's some screws underneath here that I need to cut, and that's where I have to be very precise at what I'm doing. So I have the action right here, and then I'm going to get the body, and I'm going to show you what you have to do, because you have to make your measurements. Before moving the body over to the keyboard, you have to take a video, what I suggest, or pictures, because anything gets disassembled, you know exactly what to do, where it goes. Only thing that I suggest for you is try not to scratch any electronics and try not to rip any cables. As you can see, a lot of these cables are actually soldered on and they all look the same. So that's going to be the hard part. You're not going to disassemble any cables and you're not going to disassemble any electronics because all you're working with is the body. Now, I don't know if you see this little ribbon right over here. That's where the screen, I'm sorry, not the screen, that's where the keyboard is hooked up to. So all you have to do, that actually comes out. But when you come out, don't rip it out. Do it very gently and very slowly because these ribbons might not be replaceable. Okay, so this is the key contact right over here. One thing about the key contact, yeah, it was very, very easy to take out. But as I said again, you don't want to rip any contacts. Like these two are connected to each other, but it's bendable. You don't want to snap anything or electronics to bend it or even scratch it. And you don't want to break this ribbon. As I said, this ribbon, if you break it, it'll be impossible for people who do not know how to solder like me. All of these are soldered on. Now, one thing that I want to do is I want to see if my electrician can figure out the code to make this an 88. If he can make it an 88, all I have to do is basically get an 88 Casio contact board or any kind of contact board that I have, and I have 88 keys, and I can just start the reprocess all over again, which I don't mind, because then I know exactly what to do. Okay, so it's already starting to look good, but as you can see, there's a gap, which is no problem, because the reason of that is that it's already on its own board, right over here. The main part of this situation is that you want to get the measurements of the top chassis perfect. Now, I thought that the keyboard was the same length as the Casio keyboard. What I'm talking about is the Kawai. It's a little tiny bit wider. Now, the reason of that is because it is a real piano keyboard, and you have bushings, you have punchings, you actually have key felts that are in between it. With the Casio keyboard, it comes in sections, and plus it's smaller and more portable. So, as you can see right over here, I have actually boards. There's one board right here, and there's a board in the back. The board in the back right here, you have to get it as even. This one is not even yet. On this side, it's basically the same thing. This board over here is just to hold up the keys together. But it all has to be evened out. Now, you're going to use those boards as a template to actually cut your frame. This keyboard, the top part of it is going to be raised up a little bit for many reasons. Because as you can see underneath the Kawai keyboard, they're metal parts. So you really cannot insulate them because that is going to be the flowing part of the action. Second part about it is underneath the keyboard, there's speakers right over here. So you have to make room for the speakers and you have to make room for the fulcrum point of the keyboard. Now, another thing that's a snag about this keyboard is that the middle section, you only have to worry about the ends right now, but the middle section over here, once you flip it over, the part that you have to worry about is these parts right over here. What I suggest is that if you're going to work on this project and you're really, really true to it, you could trim these down. I would trim these down with a very little hacksaw. Very little hacksaw just to get these in. or you could drill the holes that are underneath it a little bit bigger. Now, one thing about this is that it's very little space that you actually have to drill the holes. So that's one thing that's really, really good about it. The bad thing about it is that once you drill those holes, and if you want to put it back as its original position, they probably won't hold, so you have to look as another alternative. So I'm going to take my chances with this, because this is a used keyboard, as I said, and I got this real cheap, and I'm going to do it, and I actually want to get this weighted action in. Next, and most important, you're going to take a pencil and you're going to basically trace the areas where you have your destinations, where your bottom chassis is going to end. So the first will be this. That's where I'm going to cut right there. And what I usually do is I put an arrow and cut. C-U-T. And it's the same thing on the back side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this right over here. Now, as you can see, there's a board underneath it, but I'm going to take a long leveler or ruler and then figure out the back side. Okay, and the side over here. There you go. I'm going to measure these and make sure that everything is correct, you know, precise thing. Everything has to be precisely correct. And right here, this is your keybed. So underneath this, I'm going to put keybed. And then I'm going to draw the line of the keybed from here to here, even right over here and here, and put do not cut. There we go. So this is going to be the keybed of your Kawai. Once I cut this and take the other board out, I probably don't need the other board. It's going to be a little bit lower. Then I can figure out how much do I need to work with of height. Now that you got your template, what you want to do is you want to take your top chassis, the body of the keyboard, the dashboard, you want to put it in a safe place because you're going to end up cutting the board. So what I usually do is attach the parts. So that's one, that's number two. Then slowly hold it and take it apart. And there it is. This is your front panel of the MZ-X500. Remember that old speaker I told you about? It comes in handy because these are all your screws right over here. So you're not ever going to lose them. And if you have an old speaker or any kind of magnet that you could just basically rub your tools on, that's why I always keep like one or two of these. It comes in handy. What I used to do is use these little red cups. And every time I use the red cups, I waste a cup. And then after that, I can't drink out of those cups anymore or use them because the screws, you could get lead poisoning or whatever. But these are silver screws, and you probably won't get lead poisoning, you just have to wash them. But anyway, this comes in handy. Okay, doing this template, I kind of did some things a little wrong, so that's why I always wanted to check. What I did is I put the action in the center. Instead of that, I should have put this action at the end point right over here. So I don't have to cut this area, I do have to cut that area, and I have to cut right over here. As I said that you could cut bigger and make your adjustments later, just in case. So, you know, you don't want to cut smaller because it's going to be bad. So I think I have the layout. I'm going to get the top part of the keyboard and put it on here just to make sure I am precisely correct. So that's going to be a challenge right now, but let me try that. Okay, so I got the control panel, the top part of the keyboard on with the speakers. As you can see, it lays flat, flush, without the bottom part of the chassis. I did make everything correct here, except for one part was the back. So I have to make the part of the back a little bit bigger. So it's right over here. I'm just gonna extend it out just a little bit bigger, just to be, you know, just to be sure. So I'm gonna take my leveler and put it just a little bit bigger, like that. I think that will be good. So it's gonna be here to here, and then just draw it. If it's too big, then I can always readjust it, or readjust it with another piece of wood. There we go. So I put cut, and I'm gonna put an arrow right at that line. There we go. So on this side, I made it a little bit bigger too, because as I said, your keyboard is gonna be big. You might not wanna use the bottom board, but the rest of the keyboard is gonna be big, so you have to be definitely prepared for it. But yeah, this is gonna be fun, so let's cut the board. Now this right here, this is your bottom board for your keyboard. So let's go try it out and put the front part of the chassis, or say the top part of the chassis, on top of it. Let's make sure. All right, everybody, I got this precise. Look at that. Look at that. It looks a little bigger, but it's okay because it's holding a real piano keyboard in there. Just like that, from end to end. Now, as I said again, you're gonna have a problem with these stems right here, these plastic stems. The reason is that these hold up the screws. So if you're really, really sure you wanna do it, then what I suggest you do is hold off a little bit, check the electronics, make sure it's gonna be fully compatible before you do it. Because you're gonna wanna test the contact board onto here. You might have to cut a little into the action too. I forgot to tell you about that. But you have to test everything to see if this project's gonna work. If not, then you could put the keyboard right back together. You don't wanna regret anything. But for now, leave the stems on, leave everything exposed until you put the keyboard on. But what I might end up doing to protect the electronics is I'm gonna put a felt piece over the top, or just basically just put paper over the top, just like that, and with some Gorilla Glue or something like that. Okay, so now it's time to attach the keyboard onto the board. Here we go. Okay, so this is the Kawai keybed right over here. This is, we're gonna install onto here, but first we gotta take the Kawai keyboard apart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make room and take all the keys off, put them aside, and make sure that all the keys are in the same exact order. They're numbered too, you know? So there we go. Just like that. And at the same time I'm taking this apart, my friend's cooking some really good steaks. I can smell, woo! It's gonna have that in the background later on. There we go. So now you're left with the bushings, and you're left with this part right over here, which is also the metal punchings right over here. So these are the two parts you're gonna definitely keep. What I'm thinking about doing is still keeping this board. So I'm still keeping this board. I have to cut right over here to, you know, just basically make sure that it's gonna hold. What I want to do is I want to check it out with the, what was I gonna say? Well, I want to check it out with the hammer actions because I have the hammers over there, but I don't think I'm gonna put the hammers on. I think what I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna make this a spring action with the keyboard itself, because that might be safer for the electronics, but wouldn't hurt to try one way or another. This keyboard looks like it could be definitely tweakable if it's put together the right way.
Way I really wanted it.
Ooh.
It's good?
That is so freaking good.
That was tough.
One thing about the Kawai keybed is that right over here, there are little holes for the marks where the bushing pins go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them a little bit deeper, because when I pressed it, it actually didn't go in all the way. So take this off, put my drill bit on, and here we go, start drilling. Let me check this out.
I'll do dishes on that.
Okay.
I feel like it.
Okay, so now you see me actually fasten, which is actually the bushing pin board, into where the action's going to be. What I did is I actually cut, and you saw me cut this part right over here because the action was a little too high, so I wanted to sit just a little low, so with the fulcrum point it could reach the hammer. If it doesn't work, then I have another plan, which is going to be good. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adjusting, putting all these screws in this final resting place. So here it goes. Is that I'm taking the bushings off, which is these green little circles that are felt, and I'm getting it prepared to actually spray the whole bushings outside. So what I'm going to bushings out the way, you want to tape up this area. Actually, I start from this end first. Get it a little bit above, just a tiny little hair above, and then go over. Okay, so as you see me spray the whole keybed black, this black interior, even though it's inside, it's still gonna make the piano look professional because you don't see anything underneath it. So, only thing I have to do is figure out where I'm going to put the contact board. Of course, it's going to be somewhere around this way. But let me take off the tape. Hope I didn't miss any spots. Let's see how this thing came out. The reason I put the tape on is because you don't want to get it on to the bushing pins or the hitch pins. I'm sorry, the punching pins. So the bushings are right here and the punchings are on the back. Okay, so let's see if I can do this one too. Just gonna put this on the floor because it's sticky. There we go. Much more easier way. And this one is just like that. And that, I want it to be that regular color, so that's no problem. Looks good. Looks good already. Okay, so I'm going to start installing the key. So now it's time to install the bushings, which is these little green circles right here, which protect the keys from slamming. So just put it by one. What I do is I do 2 by 2, just like that. So this actually really looks good. I'm doing a test right now with it because what I want to do is right here I want to actually put felt right over here so it protects the wood and the other side of it. I want to put like red felt, I think. Make it look good. With me, it's all about it's all about the appearance, you know? Not only it has to play good, but it has to look good. So one by one, I put these on. And one fell on the floor, so I'm missing one. That's what happens when you have all these parts. One fell on the floor. Okay, one didn't actually really fall on the floor. It was right actually on the other grand piano. Okay, so all of the punchings, all of the bushings are right here. Punchings are the same thing as bushings, but they're little and they go over by the focal point pin right over here. So now it's time to install the keys one by one. Actually, I do it more than one by one. I do it group by group. And this right now, I'm going to end up taking the keys back off again. But right now, this is just a test to see about the hammers when I install them on. Because I'm going to take the hammers off and respray them black, just like the same way. I'm leaving the keys all original. So just to make it look good, the keys have to look like their actual wood right here. And spray, basically put them on a little at a time, but I'm going to spray the hammers. Let's spray them a different color than black, you know? That's if everything goes well. And voila, everybody. This is actually going to be, I hope you can see it through the light. Just like that. And that is the new keybed of the Casio MZ-X 500. I still hope this project goes well.